Just another brother with another humble question. Just another brother with another humble question.
Welcome to A Brother with Questions. I am your host, B.Period. Appreciate y'all for joining me. Before we get started, man, let me not forget to ask you to like and subscribe, man. Hit that like button. Boop. That's it, man. That's all you gotta do. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Let's dive right into this video. So I don't know if you caught it, man, but comedian goes by the name. His name is David Lucas. But he went viral last week for making a George Floyd joke to an audience. I think he was in Kansas City. I believe he was in, but making a George Floyd joke. And after the joke, he saw the exodus of several black people. Literally got up and was like, "No, man, no, you went too far," and they dipped up out of his joke. So he went out and Willie D live. Shout out to Willie D of the Ghetto Boys, man. He's been doing a lot of interviews lately, a lot of different comedians. But anyway, he went on Willie D, and Willie D asked him what he thought or what has he reflected on since his experience at the comedy club with that particular joke. So let's see what he got to say.
Right. Okay. The great Patrice O'Neal said that a funny joke and a bad joke come from the same place. So that was my attempt at comedy.
Explain it.
It was
real quick. If you don't know who Patrice O'Neal is, go find out. Okay, go find out. Now he's dead. He passed away. He's been dead for quite a few years, I believe. I don't remember what year, but it's certainly been more than 5 to 7. But yeah, shout out to Patrice O'Neal.
To get shock value. I'm a troll. You heckle me, now I heckle you. I talked to George Floyd's brother.
When?
Sunday. Trey, you know Trey?
Yeah.
Trey the Truth?
Yeah.
I think he said he's George Floyd's brother or cousin or something.
I'm not sure what the relationship is, but I know Trey. Shouts out to Trey.
Trey the Truth.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, Trey, if I upset you personally, because that's your relative, I apologize. But I don't apologize for doing a joke. Who are we as the gatekeepers to say when a joke goes too far? I joke about beating on white women. I joke about killing white women. I joke about gay people. I joke about the transsexual community. So the moment I apologize for a George Floyd joke, now I got to apologize for every other joke. So
there it is. I mean, my man say it was a joke. And if he's got to apologize for that joke, then there's a whole slew of jokes that he needs to apologize for. And I saw the full clip. And the full clip is out there. As a matter of fact, if you go to David Lucas's own YouTube page, you can see the full clip. It's about 16, 17 minutes, the full clip. And check it out for yourself and find out, if what he said was, if it was funny, right? He said a funny joke and a bad joke come from the same place. Or a funny joke and an offensive joke all come from the same place. So you can find out for yourself whether or not you think it was funny. But as you can see, like he said, if it was your family, he apologizes, but he doesn't apologize for saying the joke. Let's keep going.
So who in this situation is the gatekeeper to tell me you went too far or you didn't go far enough? Is it because I'm not famous? If Dave Chappelle would have said that joke, what would have happened? He would have been a little wittier because he's been doing comedy longer than me, but it's all in the name of laughter, all in the name of free speech. And a lot of people say, you're pandering, you're doing this, you're doing that. How? Because I said a joke about a black guy in front of a majority white audience. Majority of my fan base is white. That's no secret. Black people, for some reason, have never liked my comedy.
So there you go. So if you go, a lot of the clips that have been coming out about this, some people said he was pandering because if you go do some research on David Lucas, like he said, a lot of his fan base is white, and so that particular audience that night, if you look at the clip, I'm not saying, I don't know if it was majority white. He says majority white, but certainly all the people that you see in the front are white. That's for sure. And a lot of the black people that are talking are coming from the back. And so for that reason, some people were saying he was pandering. But for me, I went, I don't know David Lucas. Now that I've kind of done some deep dive on him, I think I have seen some of his sets on some different things before. And the one thing I will say about him is he goes in on a lot of different things. And so in this particular instance, he was making jokes about George Floyd and the death of George Floyd. But if you do a deep dive on his comedy, he goes in on a lot of different things unapologetically. And so this is par for the course for him. And like he said, so if this particular joke is a problem, who's to say what is the problem, what's not a problem? Because certainly he's gone in on white women and white people, and nobody's ever had a problem with that. But the moment he did this joke about George Floyd, it seemed to be like, oh, wait a minute now you're doing too much. And so he's asking that question. Well, what's that line? What's that line, right? Because as comedians, the one thing that we hold them to is they're supposed to sort of be, or at least I think of them as a mirror to where we are in society, and where society's at. And so by doing so, you're usually highlighting, right, the good ones anyway, and not highlighting, made up stories. They're highlighting things that have happened and finding something funny about that situation. Or they're making light of that situation in some way, shape, or form. And so that's where we're at. I mean, that's what they do. They've been doing it for years. We know Dave got in trouble for some of this. He wasn't talking about George Floyd, obviously, but he got in trouble for some of this stuff. So this is what they do. This is what they do. I think a lot of our problem is we don't necessarily know who we're going to see when we go see them. We only have seen a clip and not have seen the full person. And so when the full person shows up, a lot of times we're surprised at who we're looking at.
Because I'm different. And I don't go up there and talk about big dick, little dick, big pussy, big ass jokes. Those are not my jokes. My jokes are very cerebral. So if you come to my show, I might say a lot of crazy shit, but on your drive home, you're going to be thinking a lot.
Now this part, I was a little like, come on, what you talking about, dog? So, because he's talking about why he thinks black people don't like his comedy because he's cerebral. And I'm like, come on, man, what are we talking about? Now, I think all comedians have comedians have talked about this before, is that not every audience is your audience, right? And so you may have to curb your style to a particular audience. But this notion that black people can't get your jokes, like, what are we talking about, dog? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think, obviously that's his experience. And so I'm not going to deny that maybe that's been his experience. But the notion that we can't get it, like, what are we talking about? I saw his comedy. I get all his comedy. Heck, I got the George Floyd joke. I thought it was kind of funny. But so I'm with him in that sense. But, we keep going, man.
I'm a very calculated and very cerebral person.
Yeah, I'm an advocate for free speech too. You told me that you were familiar with my music, and I get it. I get free speech. But I get free speech. Okay. Now check this out. I really do understand comedy, and I do know that comedy is subjective.
Right.
What's offensive to one person may not be offensive to another person.
Exactly.
So, having said that, when you start talking about telling jokes about black folks' pain in front of white folks, it hit different because white folks are the dominant the dominant group in this society that we occupy.
So what if I make a food stamp joke? That could be painful for somebody.
Yes, it could. Yes, it could. But the difference is that the food joke is for everybody. A food stamp joke is for everybody. Everybody's on welfare. In fact, most white people are on welfare. So white people are on welfare than black people are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying.
That wouldn't necessarily.
I'm not trying to argue the facts. I'm just saying, like, anything can be offensive to somebody.
Right.
Anything can be offensive to somebody. My dad died in November. You know, I joke about him. Why don't people say that's too far?
Because it's your pain. You know,
but people are saying that George Floyd should be my pain as well. So how can I, if we collectively share this pain from George Floyd and you want me to feel his pain, why can't I talk about it? Because comedy is a coping mechanism. I became a comedian because I did not like to fight.
I don't necessarily believe that George Floyd pain should be your pain. But what I'm speaking to is that.
But I should relate to it, right?
No, but I think that anybody can relate to having empathy. All of us should have a capacity to have empathy. You know,
I do have empathy.
So when you think about making a joke about George Floyd, somebody who died, and it sparked an entire movement all around the world because black people, black men specifically, are being gunned down in the streets like dogs by the police, and there's no accountability for it. And so here's the thing. I get that you have a majority white audience and you have to tell jokes that makes them laugh also, but here's the difference.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Willie?
But here's the difference. Let me finish the point first.
Okay.
Absolutely, you can ask me a question. The point is, George Floyd, what happened to George Floyd could happen to you. It's more likely to happen to you than anybody in your white fan base.
Okay.
And so that's the difference. And also is because, see, when you crack jokes about white folks and that could possibly offend white folks,
right,
the difference between offending them and offending us is that they can decide when they don't want to laugh anymore and when they want to shut you down. They could shut you down. We don't have the luxury or the power to shut you down like that. They can tell you at any point, you ain't playing no more funny. You ain't playing at the Funny Bone anymore. You're not going.
So I'm gonna stop right here. So this is the point where, and I like Willie D. I like most, this is not the first set of content I've seen from Willie D. And it doesn't surprise me because I know who Willie D is, and I know a lot of his other viewpoints, especially about these topics. So what he said doesn't surprise me, but it is still disappointing. The idea that David Lucas should have been more careful about making a joke related to George Floyd, because as Black people, we don't have the power to shut him down, as Willie D described it, as opposed to the white people in the white, assuming he made a joke that offended them, and that's what Willie D lost me. I was like, what are we talking about, Willie? First of all, if Black people really wanted to band together and do something, we do have the power to band together and do something. The difference between Black people and white people when it comes to banding together is that most Black people as a whole just don't do that. For whatever the reasons are, and I'm not going to debate the reasons on this podcast right here, but for whatever the reasons are, we choose not to come together to decide what it is that we want to shut down. Now, is that David Lucas's fault? And so because he knows that that's not going to happen, he shouldn't make Black jokes that he knows are going to offend Black people? I don't think it is. It is what it is. If Black people wanted to band together, we had the power to do that. And we can change and curb the needles of some things if we chose to. We just choose not to. And therein lies the issue. But it's not David Lucas's problem or anybody else's problem for that matter. And so the one thing I want to leave with this video is we're okay with joking about everybody. We were with Dave when Dave was going through his stuff. We were with Paul Mooney. I mean, you talking about white people. Have you ever seen the Paul Mooney set? I mean, white people would literally walk out on a Paul Mooney set. No different than how they walked out on Dave Lucas's set. The black people walked out on Dave Lucas's set. So for me, I'm like, if we're cool with what Paul is doing, and of course, there's a whole lot of range in between, right? And if you go through this interview, I mean, David Lucas talks about being in comedy clubs with some, I'm assuming they're white comedians, or maybe they're not white comedians, but anyway, listening to some people tell racist jokes as he described it, and he dealing with it, right? Because it was funny, you know, or critiquing it because it wasn't as funny as they thought it was, right? And him dealing with that, and I've even heard Dave give interviews and talk about that as well. And so, you know, there's got to be a license where you are able to attempt to make whatever jokes that you want. And for those that don't like them, cool, that joke wasn't for you. But to say that there's certain things you can't say and certain jokes that you can't make, man, when we start going down these lines of what you can and cannot say, we're going down a slippery slope. We're ruining the idea of what free speech is. We're already pushing back on that as it is. So the last thing we need to do is to start going in these comedy clubs where comedians have or should have license to go as far as they want. And if you don't like it, don't go support. But there's so many opportunities for these people anyway. I don't even think it matters. This is not gonna hurt David Lucas' pockets. So David, you know, I'm on your side, bro. Keep doing what you're doing. I've been paying attention a lot more to your content now. Shout out to you, funny brother. Like he said, I think he said he's been in the game. I don't even think it's been 10 years for the brother. So he's still at the early stage of this game. I'm sure that as he grows, he's gonna get better. He's gonna get more clever. He's gonna be funnier. But man, shout out to David Lucas as far as I'm concerned. And you know, hey, if you didn't like the joke, don't support. But to try and say this man needs to be canceled, try and say this man should be shamed and taken out in front of the people so they can throw rocks, man, kick rocks, man. Y'all didn't like the joke, cool. I liked the joke. I thought it was funny. I thought it was appropriate. If you go back and watch the video, he was responding to someone actually, and so like he said, he's a troll. They went one place. He was like, "Oh, that's what we're doing." And so he went further and he went further and he went further and he went further. And then they found out, you know what? I don't like this. I'm out. He was like, okay, cool. But I can go further if you want. So, hey, man, shout out to David Lucas, man. But y'all go check it out, man. I think I'm going to try and drop this link to the clip in the comment. Not in the comments, but in the description too, man. But shout out to David Lucas, man. I'm B.Period, and I'm out.